You know what most gardeners never admit? They're exhausted. Every year, they buy new seeds, new fertilizer, new soil mixes, new tools. They baby fragile vegetables through heat waves, pests, mildew, drought, and endless disappointment. Tomatoes crack overnight. Lettuce melts in the sun. Cucumbers rot on the vine. And after all that work, they walk away with one salad bowl. But somewhere else in the world, there's a tree that laughs at drought. A tree that grows faster than bamboo. A tree whose leaves contain more nutrition than most vegetables combined. A tree where you can eat the leaves, flowers, pods, seeds, and even use it to help clean dirty water. It survives brutal heat, poor soil, neglect. And once you learn why this tree never became common in modern supermarkets, you may never look at agriculture the same way again. Because the reason this miracle plant stayed hidden has nothing to do with nature. It has everything to do with money. Today, we're talking about the forgotten tree that could feed millions, moringa. And by the end of this video, you may wonder how the modern world ignored something this powerful for so long. At first glance, moringa doesn't look impressive. It isn't shiny. It isn't branded. It doesn't come wrapped in plastic with a barcode. It's just a fast-growing tree with soft green leaves and long-hanging pods. But that simple appearance hides a dangerous truth. Because this tree breaks the modern food business model. Think about how most food systems work. You buy seeds every season. You buy fertilizer, you buy pesticides, you buy raised beds, you buy irrigation systems, you replace failed crops, you repeat next year. But moringa doesn't play that game. Plant it once in the right climate, and it keeps returning. Cut it down, it regrows. Forget to water it, it survives. Poor soil, it still pushes upward. Extreme heat, it grows faster. While delicate vegetables collapse under stress, this tree treats hardship like fuel. That's the kind of plant people should hear about constantly. But they don't. Because industries profit more from fragile crops than resilient ones. There is more money in selling solutions than promoting self-sufficiency. More money in weak systems than strong ones. And once you understand that, the silence around moringa starts to make perfect sense. But the business side is only half the story. Because nutritionally, this tree becomes even harder to explain. Most people think of healthy greens as things like spinach, kale, or lettuce. They're fine plants. But once you compare them to moringa, the conversation changes fast. Because these leaves are not ordinary garden greens. They are nutritional density stacked into living tissue. Gram for gram, moringa leaves have been widely praised for containing high levels of vitamin C, calcium, potassium, iron, beta-carotene, and plant protein. That means one humble tree can provide nutrients many gardeners try to collect from 5 or 6 separate crops. Instead of planting spinach for iron, carrots for vitamin A, citrus for vitamin C, beans for protein, you could be harvesting from one source, and that is where it gets uncomfortable. Because we've been taught that healthy eating requires complexity, long shopping lists, expensive powders, imported supplements, designer superfoods with premium labels. Yet this tree has been growing quietly for centuries in villages, backyards, and dry landscapes with almost no marketing at all. No glossy package, no celebrity endorsement, no trendy branding, just leaves on branches. And perhaps the most shocking part, unlike many plant foods, moringa is known for containing a strong amino acid profile, making it far more useful than most people realize. That means this isn't just healthy garnish. It can become real survival nutrition, real substance, real food. Which raises an obvious question. If the leaves are this valuable, how hard is the tree to grow? The answer surprises almost everyone. Most garden plants want comfort, soft soil, perfect moisture, balanced temperatures, constant attention. Miss a few hot days, and many crops begin to fail. But moringa was built for the opposite world. This is a tree that evolved where heat is intense, rain can disappear, and soil is often poor. Instead of collapsing under stress, it adapts to it. Its roots dive deep, searching for hidden moisture. Its leaves are efficient, designed to reduce water loss while still capturing sunlight. Its growth speed is almost absurd. In warm conditions, young moringa plants can shoot upward so quickly that first-time growers think something is wrong. Nothing is wrong. That speed is the strategy. Grow fast, establish roots, outrun hardship, While many vegetables demand daily supervision, this tree often asks for one thing: get out of the way. And that changes how you think about gardening. Because most people assume a productive plant must also be needy. More harvest must mean more labor. More nutrition must mean more maintenance. But moringa breaks that assumption. It can give more while asking less. That's rare in agriculture. And once gardeners experience that contrast, many never see traditional backyard growing the same way again. But here comes the objection people always make. That's fine if you live somewhere tropical. What if you live in cold climates? What if winter kills everything? That's where the next surprise begins. This is where most people give up too early. They hear that moringa prefers warm climates, then assume it's impossible outside tropical regions. So they move on. But experienced growers think differently. They don't ask, can this plant survive winter outdoors? They ask, how do I use the seasons to my advantage? That mindset changes everything. Because in colder regions, moringa doesn't need to be treated like a permanent landscape tree. It can be grown like tomatoes, peppers, or basil. As a seasonal powerhouse, start seeds indoors before the last frost. Give them warmth and strong light. Once summer arrives and the soil heats up, transplant them outside into the sunniest part of the yard, the harsh spot, the place delicate greens hate. That's where this tree often performs best. And because it grows so aggressively in warm months, growers can still harvest large amounts of leaves before autumn arrives. Some even grow it in large containers. When cold weather returns, they move the plant indoors, keep it near a bright window, let it rest through winter, then bring it back outside in spring. Same plant, another season. That means people in climates who assumed they were excluded often aren't. They just needed a different strategy. And that idea matters far beyond this tree. Many useful plants aren't impossible to grow. They're simply misunderstood. But once your moringa starts thriving, there's one technique that turns it from tall and awkward into a leaf-producing machine. Most beginners never learn it. When new growers see moringa shooting upward, they usually celebrate a tall trunk, fast growth, big progress. It feels like success. But if you let it keep stretching skyward unchecked, you often get a lanky plant with leaves too high to harvest easily. Looks impressive, produces less, and that's why experienced growers do something beginners hate. They cut it down, hard. When the young tree reaches a workable height, many growers prune the main stem aggressively. To someone unfamiliar with the plant, it looks insane. You waited weeks for growth, then removed half of it in minutes. But this is where the biology changes. Instead of pushing one tall central stem, moringa responds by sending energy sideways. New branches explode outward. The plant becomes fuller, lower, denser, and easier to harvest. More tips, more leaves, more usable growth, less ladder, more food. This technique turns a skinny tree into a production bush. And once regular pruning begins, harvests can continue again and again through the warm season. That's the difference between growing a curiosity and growing a system. Many gardeners focus only on what species they plant, but yield often comes from how you manage it. The right cut can outperform the right seed. And yet, as useful as the leaves are, as powerful as the growth is, none of that is the most shocking thing about this plant. Because the real secret is hidden inside the seeds. And once you hear what they can do to dirty water, it sounds almost impossible. Up to this point, moringa already sounds unusual. Fast growth, heavy nutrition, heat resistance, repeated harvests. That alone would make it valuable. But the seeds are where the story becomes hard to ignore. When the tree matures, it produces long pods filled with seeds. And inside those seeds are natural compounds that researchers have studied for water clarification. When crushed and mixed into dirty water, the seed material can help bind suspended particles together. Dirt, cloudiness, organic debris, and some contaminants begin clumping into heavier masses that settle downward. Water that looked muddy can become dramatically clearer. Think about that for a moment. One tree can feed a household, and also contribute to cleaner water systems. That's not a trendy health claim. That's practical survival value. In areas where modern treatment systems are expensive, distant, or unreliable, low-cost biological tools matter a lot. For some communities, solutions like this can mean safer daily life, less risk, more resilience. And even where advanced filtration already exists, the lesson is powerful. Nature often solved problems long before industry packaged them. We tend to assume useful technology must look modern. Steel machines, plastic cartridges, complex chemicals. But sometimes the answer grows quietly in the sun. And that realization can be uncomfortable. Because once people understand what trees like moringa are capable of, they start asking a dangerous question. What else have we ignored? This is the part many people resist. Because we like to believe the most common foods became common because they were the best options. The smartest crops, the healthiest crops, the most efficient crops. But history is rarely that clean. Very often, what wins is not what nourishes people best. It's what moves best. What stores longest? What survives shipping? What can be standardized, packaged, stacked, priced, and sold at scale? That changes everything. Take supermarket vegetables. Many were selected over decades for appearance, shelf life, uniform size, transport strength, and predictable timing. Those traits matter commercially, but they are not always the same traits that matter nutritionally. Moringa exposes that conflict perfectly. Fresh leaves are delicate. They wilt quickly after harvest. They don't sit in warehouses for weeks. They don't love cross-country trucking. They don't fit neat retail systems the way heavily industrialized produce does. So the market often moved around it, not because it lacked value, because it lacked convenience for distribution. That distinction matters more than most people realize. Many forgotten plants were not rejected by nature. They were rejected by logistics. And once a food disappears from mainstream shelves, new generations assume it was never important. That is how useful knowledge gets buried. Quietly, slowly, profitably. Which means the real lesson here is bigger than one tree. If the modern world sidelines something as powerful as moringa, how many other extraordinary plants are still waiting in plain sight? But knowing that tree exists is only useful if you know how to use it well. Because most beginners waste the best part. Most first-time growers make the same mistake. They finally harvest beautiful moringa leaves, then treat them like ordinary greens. Boil them hard, overcook them, leave them in direct sun, store them carelessly. And without realizing it, they reduce much of what made the plant valuable in the first place. Because delicate nutrients do not always survive rough handling. Heat, strong light, moisture, and time can all work against freshness. That doesn't mean the leaves become useless. Far from it, but it does mean smarter processing creates better results. Many experienced users prefer gentle drying methods, shade drying, good airflow, low heat, patience. When done properly, the leaves retain better color, better aroma, and a more useful long-term form. Once dried, they can be crushed into powder and stored for later use. That means summer harvests can still support winter meals, soups, smoothies, tea blends, rice dishes, sauces. Even a small spoonful added regularly can stretch the value of one tree far beyond harvest season. Think about what that means. Most backyard crops are eaten quickly, then forgotten. Moringa can become stored nutrition, a reserve, a shelf-stable garden asset. That changes the relationship between gardening and food security. You're no longer just growing for today. You're building for later. And once people understand that shift, they usually ask the final question. If one overlooked tree can do all this, what else should we be planting instead? Maybe the biggest lesson here was never about moringa itself. It was about how easily powerful things can be ignored. We are surrounded by systems telling us what matters, what to buy, what to plant, what is normal, what is worth it. And yet, again and again, some of the most useful solutions are the ones that never received marketing budgets, glossy labels, or shelf space. They were passed quietly through gardeners, families, villages, and traditional knowledge. Seed by seed, season by season. That should make all of us curious. Because if one tree can provide food, resilience, repeated harvests, and practical value while staying largely outside the mainstream, then what else have we overlooked? What else is growing quietly right now, waiting for someone to notice? Maybe the future of gardening is not chasing harder systems. Maybe it's rediscovering smarter ones. If this changed how you think about what belongs in a backyard garden, let me know in the comments. Have you ever grown moringa? Or is there another forgotten plant you think more people should know about? And if you enjoy uncovering powerful plants, old knowledge, and the truths modern systems forgot, subscribe, because the next one might completely change what you plant next season.